No dramas, folks. I'm here absolutely rushing around like a blue horse fly. Unbelievable. Just been mad at it, selling some nice Audi can shower that we've just put out. There's a video dropping on those soon you'll be able to catch shortly. All details of the people who's actually just bought those fish will be listed in the video as well. So nice touch because they are really cracking. It's the first time I've had them. Audi Can's not actually been breeding his own fish for too long. I think we're only a couple of years into that project, but cracking lineage. Dainichi is a cross, so very, very interesting heritage, that's for sure. And so far, they seem to be delivering the goods. It's the kind of shower that I like to see, to be honest with you, where they've got a lot to do. I can see all the qualities in them, but the Sumi's still got a lot to do. What I'm tending to find as well, they're a bit heavier on the belly, these. So what you've actually got is bit more Koiku patterning underneath them if you're into that style of shower, and it's just a case of waiting for the Sumi. But the belly quality is immense and the bodies are superb as well. So yeah, I better just take a minute. I'm just gonna have a drink. Just bear with me, folks, because I'm dry as out. So question time is back. We've been having a jig around with everything internally, to be honest, because I mean, I decided to sort of give it a little bit of a break from the Q&A because I was feeling the fatigue a little bit, but that was just in general as well with work and everything. So I had a bit of time behind the scenes, just focusing on the business, focusing on family life and trying to strike up a bit more of a balance, because I am one of the worst ones in the world for trying to figure that stuff out, to be honest with you, or ever actually conquering it. So on my own this evening as well, so please do bear with me. I'll keep my head into the comments coming through. I hope obviously everything on that side's coming through all right. I'm at the Koi Wholesale HQ, and I think we know that broadband is notoriously difficult. So yeah, there we go. So we're going to be back every Thursday evening from now on at 6 o'clock for Q&A live. I have got a bit of a plea to everyone, because the concept when I started this was to actually help people, which I think it has done a lot over the 50 odd episode. Well, this is episode 62, so even more. But the main idea was, you know, I'd like to help people sort of one-on-one. You know, it's quite nice for me to get stuck into a bit of a case, but you know, this is an hour a week I can dedicate, or 45 minutes it might actually end up being at the minute, to be honest. Just while I remember, feel free to start firing some questions into the comments for me to pick up on. But yeah, it would be really nice to work through with some guests. So this is my plea to everybody watching. You haven't even got to come on video. You can just come on as audio only if you wish. But if you're out there, you've got a load of questions that you absolutely guarantee you want answering. If you're on here with me, you will get them answered. That is a guarantee. And yeah, if you've got a problem, you know, problem with your pond, anything you want to kind of drill into, I'm happy to give that time and work through it. One thing I will say is we're getting to a period where we're really getting inundated. Phone calls into the office, emails through Koi Wholesale, Koi Talk, messages privately to me through the Koi Wholesale WhatsApp and Messenger. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys, it's all getting too much to reply to. And the reason this is, I'm happy to hear from anybody. But, you know, advice is often very multi-layered. You've got to get stuck into it. It's not just a quick 1-minute answer or 1-sentence answer when you're asking for fish advice. It's stuff that takes time to do it properly. In my opinion, we have to go in depth, get that information, get that knowledge, get all the facts as well before then giving the advice and tailoring the advice to that exact situation. I'm not one to half-arse anything. I think you probably gathered that in all the time I've been doing this. So yes, happy to help. But what I would ask is, if you're out there and you want that in-depth, detailed help, please get in touch with us to actually book and come on Q&A. Like I say, it hasn't got to be video. It can just be audio, and you'll have that time dedicated to work through the problem. More than happy to do that. And the reason I kind of want to do it that way as well is because it's not only then just one person benefits from the time given, it can benefit the thousands of people that will watch this video over time. And that seems a much better use of our resources and our time than just dedicating it to one person. So yeah, little plea from me. And again, more than happy to do it. In fact, I love getting stuck into the kind of these cases and problems, but would like to do it in a way where everybody it can be shared and everybody can learn from it. So if you do get into us, email questions, and we don't get back to you, please don't be offended. It's just a hell of a lot on top of running super busy business, fish farm, magazine, and everything else. The team is just flat out constantly, and then it's just going into overload. So just want to know you're important to us, but it is quite difficult to dedicate that time one-on-one to everybody getting in touch, and I don't just want to leave anybody out. So it's easier for us just not to do it full stop. So yeah, that's that one. I've got quite a bit to catch up on, to be honest with you. Events more than anything. We've got a load kind of lined up coming up. First one I want to touch on is the Taniguchi one, previously gone. Now, I've had a few delays with this because I've not had the time to get out to Japan. Taniguchi himself, to be honest with you, I've heard that his right-hand man has left him and he's been massively under pressure. So everything's not quite functioning as it should. I've got a colleague of mine in Japan heading over at the end of this month, and we're going to get all that work done and quickly arrange shipping or what's happening with them fish not long after. So if you're involved in the Taniguchi grow out, please just bear with us a couple more weeks and we'll be on that one, and more details and everything will follow. Secondly, good one. I think there's a video dropping possibly Friday or Saturday for this one, but we are doing the Jumbo Tosai Festival of Jumbo Tosai. I can't remember what way round we got that. But basically what we're doing, it's the first time we've kind of done this in this format. The Secret Sankey event kind of touched on this concept, but I think this is going to go down well. So we have, I think it was earlier this week, I selected out 60 very high class Jumbo Tosai from Dainichi, Sakai, the Dragon Ball lineage fish, and then some slightly smaller bits from Sakai, Kohaku, and Sankey as well. Now, the plan with these is they're going to be, the videos going live to fill you in on all the details specifically soon enough. And then on Sunday, I believe the pictures will be available, all the fish will be able to view on the website. The nice caveat with these is that you will be able to buy them. The price listed on the website is exactly what you'll pay. There's nothing else to add. And the fish will remain at Koi Wholesale with me, growing through to the end of October. So obviously you're not just buying what's in front of you. You're going to be adding some considerable centimeters, body mass and improvement onto those fish that you're looking at. So yeah, that's the plan with it. I think it's a nice touch. Your chance to have a fish growing here with me, and it's a quality level that I don't typically normally release. This is the stuff I typically tend to keep and release at the end of the year. And then we're actually hoping to tie the completion of this up with a physical event that's going to be open to everybody at the end. So the kind of autumn harvest season time of year. So pretty excited about all that stuff. And then, yeah, we've actually, Matt Shields, I'm sure many of you will be aware of him. Great guy, great eye for koi as well, at Prestige Koi, has got in touch with us. And yeah, well, a while back, I wanted to do something with him. So stay tuned for something coming up on that very, very soon that you also won't want to miss. Feel free to get in touch with Matt, and I'm sure it's up to him whether he wants to tell you any more details, but we're just working the timeline out for release at the minute. But plenty happening, guys, as you can tell. On top of that, super busy farm at the minute. Fish are growing really, really well. I'm behind the scenes. I'm working on some cool stuff. Really playing around with medications at the moment, to be honest. Really trying to conquer, you know, people's problems. I know the problems that are out there, so we're trying on different setups. Some of them problems are being, you know, replicated here, and yeah, playing around with dosages on medications and combinations and stuff like that. So I've got some really, I'm learning a lot. I'm really learning a lot at the moment with this. It's how this advice gets tailored to kind of go out, because there's so many variables to all this stuff. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, not want to shed too much, but just a simple one that's really helping getting our head around some stuff is potassium doses. You know, some of the rates I've been using PP at and still not getting the desired reaction times is quite phenomenal. And you know, if we're not getting, this is one of the things, right? PP is a phenomenal treatment that I would believe should be able to kill everything apart from white spot, because it's formal intensity, the only thing that shifts that. But yeah, you've got to get the dose right. This is the problem. The packet doses are just not cutting it for most ponds. but there's just too many variables just to go throwing it out there. But we keep working it, speaking to a few people as well, just trying to solidify, if what we're doing is of any danger and things like that. But yeah, needless to say, I think a lot going out there. A lot of the problems with meds and repetitive dosing is lying at the doors of dosage rates. I can't really place it on anything else. I think this is the problem why it's not fully doing the job, because if the dosage was accurate, the chemicals that we're using should be strong enough to do the job. But I honestly don't think it is. There's also a potential issue in that the medications, I think probably the quantity and the power of the drugs inside, like percentages, is possibly questionable as well. But we're still digging into these medication guys to try and get a bit of info out, but it's quite challenging to say the least. But yeah, it's interesting. It really is. And let's see where we get. But I'm just a bit reluctant to shed any info now. I just wanted to let you in the loop that, the problems are real. We know they're out there, but turning your eyes to dosages is a really good place to start, to be honest with you, and really making sure you don't underdose. I know overdosing can be a scary thought, but underdosing is equally going to lead to as many problems. Right, next one. Need to give somebody here a very big mention, and just a topic I want to touch on. So you may or may not be aware of Andy Finch. I think it's Finch Filtration Systems. Not quite sure. Somebody out there might drop me a comment to let me know exactly what it is. I can't remember. But I've spent about 2.5 hours with Andy this afternoon because he's setting me up some new systems up here for the water purification. And every time I have a chat with that guy, he's seriously on my wavelength, and absolutely love speaking to him. I think I know he's into some complex stuff because of his kind of background with RO and whatnot, but at the heart of it, it's the right purpose. When he's giving advice, I know it's very genuine. It's not based on trying to sell you stuff. It's really based on getting the right solution based on the water that you've got. Now, that we have absolutely banged on and on and on about water, and how I believe water is at the heart of so many of the problems that people are having in ponds, the root of just so many issues in general. And when you speak to Andy, it opens up a whole new world for me, speaking just today alone. I've known for years that, you can get different qualities of carbon, for example, in your purifiers. And it's always been noticed, people kind of saying it's cheap Chinese carbon, stay away from that. Speak to Andy, he tells you it's all about it might use something specific around the iodine content in the charcoal, that to do with the quality and the ratios and the numbers. So straight away there, information that you can delve into to understand better what you're buying, to make sure you're not getting ripped off or you're getting the right stuff for your product. But so much knowledge on that front, access to so many different systems, tailored access to water testing. And this is a guy that you can honestly trust just to help you get back on track. Not going to sell you overcomplicated shit. That's the stuff I like about Andy. As we've chat, that keep it simple mantra is there. He's not going to come and try and sell you an RO system or recycled RO system if it's not what you want, because he gets, that can add complication. But he will make sure your water's on track and you're in the right kind of place where you need to be with that. And just so enjoyable to have a chat with him. And I would highly advise, if you're unsure about your purification system or unsure if you're having water problems or anything like that, look Andy up, get in touch with him and just have a chat and see what he might be able to do, because absolutely top notch. And I just know anything he's going to sell you is going to do the job, and he'll make sure of it. And the sort of aftercare service that comes with him is second to none as well. I just think really, really deserved a mention for his work on that. And all this we've spoke about water, that is the man that can really help you out. Even if you don't think you're having problems and you just want to look into it and make sure you're doing the best you can, worth having a chat. So, and I do believe, I'm not quite sure where they're at with it. Andy's done some work with us for the magazine, and I'd love to probably, if he can, I'll probably arrange with him, try and get him on here one evening, to be honest with you, so you guys can fire your questions at him, because on that side of things, he's top man. So really, really recommend it. But again, just to me, the amount of potential problems out there in the water they're getting no better, they're getting worse. You know, he's talking about, because I think his background is sort of in all this stuff, and you know how water supplies in areas are changing weekly sometimes, where it's just being switched from one supply to another over, and you're having massive, you know, changes in water parameters that aren't being equated for and allowed for. Just so much going on. You need to check in on. So well worth doing. Give him a shout, and I'm sure you'll be very, very enlightened on what he can shed in regards to the water in your pond, and it's not going to cost you a fortune. So yeah, give him a shout. Right, questions then, and I think if I just give me a minute, I'm sure Steve has uploaded some pictures for me to tease you with a little bit for some of the fish we've got for this festival of Tosai, and even a few video clips. Oh no, auctions, that's it. Forgot about that one. So yeah, we've rescheduled the live auctions as well. That's now going to be Wednesday, I think at 6:30. You'll be able to find that on the Facebook page. There's going to be more advanced previews out on YouTube and Facebook. And yeah, the reason we've redone it is just looking at all of our scheduling. It's going to allow me and Chris to actually be available to do the auction together on a Wednesday, which I've kind of been missing that. But like I say, some personal time has been needed. So yeah, Wednesday for them now. So you have Wednesday 6:30 for auction, and then Thursday at 6 I'll be back for some Q&A. So happy days. You'll be at the point where all the wives will be sick of my voice again. Yeah, but a few, just to tease you with a few of the bits we've got coming up.
Some real standout pieces. This little kajaku, I mean, yeah, absolute little weapon. Beautiful little fish, great luster. Nice little body line for small fish as well. Sort of perfect growing on fish for the summer.
That was nice. First time I've seen that. So yeah, that's one of the kind of little preview videos that'll be coming up, just to give you more of an advanced look at the fish before the actual auction as well. So yeah, I hope you find that useful. I'll just show you a couple of others, because we've got a really nice mix in this next one from Coda. Loads of different varieties, because I know we've been you know, it's been a little bit samey for a while, which we've been aware of, but it's just constantly waiting for the batches of fish to come through that we needed. But yeah,
exciting piece as well. Kiki Kikurio. You can just see that sumi sitting underneath the skin, a little bit lively. There we go. Again, nice little growing project for the summer.
And yeah, I think nice bit. All these have got a starting bid of £50 on them as well. And there's a cracking Ginrin show.
Real nice Ginrin trio here. 2 Ginrin Kahaku and Ginrin Goshiki Showa. It's a bit of a unique variety to the farm. Produces them in quite a lot of numbers now. We also have 1 or 2 non-Ginrin examples coming up as well. If you're into something a little bit different, this might float your boat.
So yeah, there we go. That's why we've been away with it, for just taking a little break, because I wanted to really kind of up the production and everything we were doing with that. So to make it even more entertaining for you guys tuning in and watching it. So be sure to be there next Wednesday, 6:30 PM. And then we'll be in a nice routine where the next week's auctions fish will drop the day after that auction. So yeah, plenty to go out there. Right, guys, enough of me rambling. I'm going to save a few of the event pictures until the end. Just spend a bit of time on some of your questions. So, right, just bear with me. I'll start from the top. Just a few bits. Kev, good evening, buddy. Edward, good evening. Dan, evening. Twisted Koi, evening, buddy. Plenty of people tuning in, as always. I do appreciate that. So, right, let's start with question number 1. Kevin Garrett. Hi, could you recommend a good small auto feeder, please? The smallest one I'd recommend is the Evolution Aqua feeder. To be honest with you, they're pretty handy. Being the battery-powered one, the battery lasts a long time. If you're just after a basic feeder, they will do the job, pretty reliable, and for the money, really a fantastic bit of kit. So that's the smallest one. The best one I would recommend at the minute would still be the JBL Pro Pond, whatever it is. Crazy name, but the JBL feeder is superb, hands down, pound for pound, the best feeder out there, all things considered at the moment. And solar, mains powered, the whole lot. Really, really impressed with what they've produced there for such a crazy price. Really, they've done a cracking job. Surplus Koi, evening. Oh, there's one. I'm from Thailand. Nice. I'm sure there's quite a few of us would like to be there at the minute. I certainly would, with my feet up on a nice beach. Crafty, evening, buddy. Crafty's very hard at it at the minute, I've got to say, doing a cracking job over at Perfect Aquatics. Right, Rory O'Donnell. Do you think breeders will keep pushing the boundaries with koi size so that, say, in 20 years or so, 90 cm would be achievable for average uneaten koi keeper and showfish or even crazier sizes? Right, if I break that down, Rory, yes, I think they'll keep pushing the boundaries. That's absolutely a given, because as we watch fish get bigger, those super big fish become the next generation of parent fish often at these farms. And obviously that's what keeps feeding the machine with that one. So naturally, yes, incrementally, they're going to get bigger. 90 cm for an average uneaten koi keeper, no, never. That's just a harsh reality on that one. To get this size, heat is required, because you need the heat in order to feed them the amount of food to make it all happen. It's not just a case of genetics and then pushing the boundaries. It's all the environmental stuff that's got to go with it. So I don't think unheated is likely to ever be achieving 90 cm unless we start having summers like those guys. The guy commented from Thailand, to be honest. So you've got those water temperatures ambiently. So unheated in the UK, Europe, I think very unlikely, because without those temperatures, you're not going to get the year-on-year massive growth that you need to for sustained enough periods. The window's just too short. So yes, koi will get bigger, absolutely, but yeah, not when you're unheated ponds. I think that's going to be very, very hard to do. Over a long time, you might get the odd things, chagoy bits like that, but I think it's going to be super, super difficult. Ooh, here's a go. I love a bacterial question. WV Koi. When treating aeromonas with ulcers, is it better to treat the pond water, or is it better to add, I presume that's oxalic acid, to feed already treating the underlying cause, flukes, with praziquantel? Right, so one's with this one. This again, where I've got to say, is this a true blown bacterial infection with severe ulceration, normally attacking around the base of the fins, side of the fish, mouth? All this stuff's quite important into the fins, the dorsal fin, stuff like that particularly. When this happens, obviously, if you can get, I'm going to say it again, it's not just a case of going for something like oxalic acid into the food. We need to be diagnosing. If this is a proper bacterial problem, without hesitation, that fish needs to go to a laboratory to be diagnosed, to get this, find out what the bacteria is, have its sensitivity tested, find out what the antibiotic is, and then distribute that in the best way possible. Feeding antibiotic via food is a lower stress way of doing it, because you're not having to catch all the fish up and inject them, but you can't guarantee each fish is getting the right dose of antibiotic, and that is a real problem in stopping this with speed. To be honest with you, flukes have been the cause of this. The actual cause, I would be surprised. That would have to have been very intense flukes, having been left for a long period of time to actually be the real cause of the bacterial infection. What they could have been, if that's the case, flukes could have been the trigger. So if it's been a few flukes left, or whatever it is, a heavy infestation, but still left for too long, they could have been the trigger if you possibly got, high levels of bacteria in your water that are too high. So those bacteria then obviously taken over and set in. So I can't say, I'm not one for just chucking at this. Something you've got to accurately diagnose quickly, get it done, then get the help. But you're also going to have to involve vets in order to get the antibiotics as well. There are more and more fish vets out there, to be honest with you, that we're seeing sort of come to the fore and doing some cracking jobs, but it can be pricey. There's no hiding away from that. But let's face it, most koi collections are pricey. This is something that has to be dealt with pace. You can spend time feeding antibiotic that's possibly not the correct one, even injecting antibiotic that's not the correct one, and fish not actually getting any better. All you can do is just suppress it a little bit and then wait for it to come back in a bigger wave. So yeah, I won't change. That's the way that needs to be done. You can disinfect the water a little bit using Virkon S. I'm not an advocate for using Virkon S in a healthy pond. There's no need to, because in a healthy pond, we're presuming that good bacteria is the dominant one. But when those scales are tipped, disinfection with that stuff seems to be the best way of getting the bad levels down and trying to just maintain the good levels a little bit, so they can come to the fore and become the dominant ones in that environment again. So be mindful of that. But if you have got a full-blown problem, I'd be looking more for potential other causes, like your water having not been right, and possibly needing disinfection, but get it diagnosed properly and then treat accordingly. So important to actually get rid of the problem. No new fish in there. That is essential, because you'll just rock the boat. They'll become another food source for what's going in. And it's also important that you treat every fish, even ones showing no physical signs of the problem yet, also need the antibiotics in order to stem the problem. Otherwise, it will just keep spreading throughout. Those sick fish are likely already, kind of infected, but it's just not broke out in the surface, in the skin or visibly yet. So be mindful of that one. Wendy, hi Ricky, have you ever witnessed or heard of a koi fitting, stroke, etc., leaving it struggling to swim properly? Yes, I have witnessed it myself. Fitting, we can often get with batches of fish coming from Japan, so we can very quickly know. You can open some boxes sometimes and you just see they start going berserk before they've even mixed in the water, just a reaction to the light having come from the dark. So we need to be careful with that. But yeah, often whenever I'm releasing a new batch of fish into a pond, we'll just put a few in first to see how they react. Because that environment in that pond, in the bag that they've adapted to, can be so intense. Got to be careful, and it's just shock when they hit the water and they can start fitting from it. It's really not nice to see. They often recover from it, but some won't. So in that case, if we see that happening, the rest of the fish will slowly be trickle fed water into their bowl to adjust them more gradually rather than just popping them in. But that is why it's always advisable to mix a little bit of your pond water in the bag when you get a new fish, just to adjust it to your environment. But coming from a dealer to your pond, that's not the same as coming from Japan to us, how they do, but still worth doing. And yeah, just random strokes in the pond, heart attacks, where they can just curl over, or like I say, leave them. A common thing I see from this as well is impact injuries, which aren't considered, but I've often heard them. You hear that thud into a side of a wall, really, really deep and nasty, and you think, shit. And that can really do some damage and leave them, with this kind of result. So, yes, it's possible. There's not really too much you can do for it, in all honesty. Just keep your fingers crossed that they pull round from it. Fitting, like I say, that is a little bit different. More often than not, they do just recover. It's a short-term one, but still not pleasant to see. I know the first time I ever saw it, my God, did I shit my pants. I just thought, what the hell is happening here? I thought it was 100% wipe out on this batch of fish. And sure enough, then just to see him, the next day all upright, swimming absolutely great, was absolutely insane. But now, rest assured, I don't really panic when I see it, and just sort of leave them to it, in all honesty, because it is all you can do. Right, here we go. Dainichi Yellow Monkey versus Sakai Super Mango Karashi. Are there any noticeable average quality of each bloodline? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are the two real daddies of this variety right now. Obviously, throw Kanishi in the mix as well, but I think what Sakai's done, they've created that Sakai body. They've got this face just so big and gnarly, and that insane colour going on with them as well. Done a phenomenal job. And Dainichi said coming through. So there's a video over on the channel at the moment. You might have seen it. I think that was posted yesterday or the day before. The yellow monkeys, the Ginrin, especially Karashigoi, that they've produced, are just insane. Pound for pound, these things are growing machines, and they just don't stop. when you consider they've got the Ginrin element, which often, you know, works against growth, it's just not stopping them. You know, there's a phenomenal Nisai. In fact, one went to Perfect Aquatics, 62 cm Nisai that I raised here. I've got one that I'm guessing is 65 or over now, still Nisai in the pond. I'm expecting that to be close to mid-70s as Sansai, to be honest with you. It's just wild, and the body on it's mental. And the Tosai absolutely flying, to the point where if you watch that video, you'll see I've had to take them out of the pond they were in because they're just causing havoc with their feeding mentality. You know, the things just sit under the feeder waiting for it to go off, and it really does have an impact when they're with other varieties that don't feed like that. So, but yeah, these bloodlines live up to it. It's why they're commanding the value that they do. That they're still very scarce in the marketplace, full stop. But there's super powerhouse genetics behind them, and they've just made the variety more interesting. You know, when you've got a Karashi Goi with that level of colour, it's Kigoi-like coloration now. That's where they've come to. You know, back in the day, there's only, as I can think of now, Otsuka himself producing a pure line of Kigoi still, but they just don't grow. True Kigoi don't grow the same. So, yeah, these things in particular have now come up to the level where they've got those jumbo genetics, but Kigoi coloration, and it's amazing. And then with the Dainichi Ginrin Karashi from the Yellow Monkey line, you throw in the Ginrin side of it as well, and they're just a dream. So that body and all them characteristics. If you've not got one in your pond, highly recommend it. Although, like I say, they do command quite a price and are pretty scarce in the marketplace. Full stop. But yeah, good question there coming over from Thailand. Right, Sam, are smaller fish more vulnerable / susceptible to parasites and bacteria problems? Not necessarily, because I mean, a lot of this stuff can be, you know, older fish, their immune systems can not be as strong at times. What you tend to find is the younger ones, probably as you find with adults, the younger immune systems are a lot stronger. You know, some of the stuff small fish have to overcome is quite remarkable at times. I was actually having this chat with Andy earlier about CEV and sleeping sickness, and what they actually go through and what we go through when we're dealing with it. And it's madness. And to think, you know, they come round from it is insane. But also mentioning that if they're not exposed to it, they don't carry immunity and actually get hit with it when they're 3-4 years old, it seems to hit them 10 times harder, to the point where fatalities are even worse. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't say they're more susceptible. What is important with small fish is you keep the body weight on them, because that is the one thing I tend to find. They become more susceptible with small Tosai. The minute they get too skinny and lose that body weight, then they really become susceptible to everything. They're a nightmare, and it can be hard to even recover the weight. And in the end, you just end up with a fatality. So, yeah, in most cases, if it's a happy, well-fed Tosai, probably, you know, stronger. But when you've not got that weight on them, they become very, very difficult to handle. Right, and here we go. Perrin. Evening, Ricky. When I built my pond years ago, the advice was to aerate a bottom drain, run a large pump, 130 litres a minute. Has this thinking changed now? I don't see many on YouTube running this way. Yeah, well, this is something I've banged on about for a while. I'm not a big advocate of this centralised aerated bottom drain pummeling up in the middle of the pond, creating a very unnatural current for your koi. What this design was kind of based around, with the tangential returns that create the vortex in motion in your pond, and then the aerated dome creating that motion, was all designed for pushing shit to your bottom drain. Now, as I mentioned before, my whole concept behind all of this stuff is fish first. What's best for the koi in this environment? And we've seen it time and time again. Top breeders like Sakai are using this method now. And, you know, in big ponds, that's where this is excluded. You know, if you've got a huge 20, 30 foot long pond, something like that, you're going to want to dot aeration around. But it's different aeration. In Japan, we use these really fine bubblers. They're huge, so you know they come up to the surface, and it's not causing that massive disruption like the bigger bubbles do with the rubber diffusers. And it's such a big pond, there's plenty of area for the fish to get away from that current still. But when we're talking, you know, some standard garden ponds, a lot tend to be square. You've got that dome in the middle. Sometimes that current is hitting every edge of the pond. The fish just can't escape. This is too much for them. You know, like I say, this upwards sort of downwards current is not natural for them either. So I tend to choose more to keep the aeration and all the return flow at one end, create a one directional flow that comes across. So the more intense area, there's still a lot of current, but it tapers out as well. And then it's got a lot for the fish to swim against, and just plenty there going on. So everyone will always have their own opinion on this, but for me, it's worked for years. It's the way I've always done it. And it's amazing, you know, creating that current. It's just a lot better, in my opinion, for the fish, and a lot more natural and settling for them as well. And even still, in most size ponds, if you've got the bottom drain set up right, you're still going to get the waste out of there. You don't need all these flows and complexity. I think it's always wise to run it to fit an aerated bottom drain, so you've always got that option. Moving forwards, you know, if you choose, you go one way, it don't work for you, want to go the other. It's a very final thing when it's been done. You're not building a pond and then going and changing the drain a couple of years later. So I think it's always worth putting one in, but not necessarily always using it in that particular way. So I hope that helps. Yep. Oh, there we go. Shirley's got it. I thought there was an innovations in there. Finch Filtration Innovations. There we go. Look it up, guys. And then, yeah, Crafty's followed on with that one. It is. He completes, yeah, he sorts out the filtration over there as well. So, like I was saying, and then Alan just backing that one up further. Awesome with his knowledge. So, completely agree with that. Right, just bear with me. Colin Short, Ricky, I have an unheated pond. Is it better to purchase Tosai or Nisai in the spring rather than autumn? Yeah, no, I think the only time to really avoid it is the real winter months when the temperatures really drop off. Now, it's not that the fish don't move. The fish will move well. The problem, and actually move better when it's cooler as opposed to warmer. It's a little bit less stress for them. The issue you've got is if you move them in winter unheated and they become unwell for whatever reason, you've not got the temperature there to get the immune response to fix it. And they'll likely, you know, either the fish itself, the new one, will sink into quite a sulk, or it could affect them all sink into quite a sulk. So that's the bit you've got to be in mind of when you're doing this. Tosai or Nisai, the same kind of thing applies to it, to be honest. So yeah, that's where you're at, you know. But I think we're where we're at weather-wise. I mean, again, tell me if I'm wrong. The temperatures didn't really drop off, you know, sort of November time. I think it might have been this year before we had that real drop into the cold stuff. So at that point, you're still pretty safe, in my opinion, for doing it. It's just making sure it's a healthy fish being moved in as well. That's really important, because if it's a sick fish being moved in and you unheated, it's just going to get harder and harder to fix that problem moving forwards. But yeah, like I say, even this time of year, it has its own problems. It's just the transport more when it gets really hot. You know, it's quite stressful for them. So yeah, I don't think there's ever really a perfect time for any of this stuff. It's just understanding what could happen. So understanding the risks and how you mitigate those risks. And if, you know, it does come to that, what your options are going to be, to be honest, Colin. So I hope that's helpful for you. Right, let's have a look. I think that's quite a good one from Koi Aquaponics. I'm curious about your own observations and thoughts on the idea that mud ponds help a fish frame increase length. Is it just an often cited myth, or do you think it helps? So mud ponds, again, I was talking to Andy about this earlier, as well as we was talking about water. And here's my take. So we've recently done two articles in Koi Talk magazine. I interviewed Marido and Nogami, two super high level breeders, and, you know, asking them about raising koi. One of the biggest things it came to was food. It's so important. I'm completely with them on all this. And then obviously next to that, when they're talking about environment, I asked about concrete pond raising, and the big thing that came back about concrete pond raising is, and why it's becoming preferred, top level fish, is that they can control the feeding better. So they can feed to the max, because they know if they overstep the line, it's much easier to rectify it in a short period of time. The problem comes in a mud pond where, yes, there's obviously added benefits, or some benefits, which I'll get to with a mud pond, but reality is, in a mud pond, you actually, the feeding, you've got to be careful, because you overstep the mark, it's a lot bigger problem, and you can't always see it when you've overstepped the mark as well, or what's going on. So you've got to be a lot more cautious. Plus, we take into consideration all the variables with the weather that they don't have control of, that can impact what they can feed as well. So no, I think the biggest thing for helping a fish frame is surface area. This is completely where I'm at with this. Surface area, then coupled with the feeding. Obviously, we can do, in a mud pond, there is vast surface area. Huge, incredible amounts for them to really swim and build up the muscle. In a lot of concrete ponds, there's not. And this is why I am a big advocate of that long rectangular shape, the long, thin ones. Like the main raising ponds at Sakai, I believe, are about 40 foot long by about 10 foot wide. So they've just got this huge lengths that can keep swimming up and down. So with a pond like that, and then the temperatures, because the same indoors to the mud ponds, there you've got the environment. When you couple that with the feeding, you increase the body mass in the right order. And I think you've got more chance, again, with that indoor environment, getting it to the pinnacle, to the peak, because it's easier to see where the line is, if you like, as opposed to the mud pond. So that is my observations of it. And again, keeping in a mud pond's a completely different skill, because you're doing it blind, and that is what you're working with. And this is why certain guys are absolute masters at it. Don't get me wrong, there's sometimes when, just with experience, you feel like a fish needs a mud pond for a summer. Because again, UV intensity, if you've not got the right shading systems, this is something I'm implementing at the minute, because I'm finding it's having a massive impact. The right shading, it can be very damaging to the benny. So it might just be, a fish looks like it's ready for that vast expanse of space, and what, some of the few benefits a mud pond can bring. There's also the nice added benefit of the natural diet that's in there, but we can replicate that indoors. It's just that feeding that kind of diet indoors is really going to hit your filtration, because you're talking about using silkworm pupae and really other high fat, high protein treats that might generate a lot of waste that might be hard for your filtration system to process. So I see benefit in that, because if you analyze them kind of food, you're talking mega high protein, high fat, and it's super highly digestible for the fish as well. So that's where I see those biggest benefits. But yeah, as for, sort of concrete versus mud pond, I think most people are becoming of the same opinion. With the right concrete pond setup, it's actually the best environment for raising to the max. If you want any better proof of that, I mean, just the people doing that these days, Dainichi, advocate of it, Narita, I mean, the guy for years who's been using big indoor concrete ponds for raising fish and bagging All Japan winner after All Japan winner. I don't think it needs to say any more about what's right or wrong, to be honest with you, at that point. Steve, good to see you back at the auction, Ricky. Yeah, to be honest, I know Chris is going to get some jip about that, let me tell you. Good fun. Right, couple more questions before I drop into a few of these pictures, and then yeah, I'm going to head off, folks, to be honest with you. Look at that. I think AJ's watching me as well. Got himself a little channel set up now as well. Absolutely loves it. Right, bear with me. I'm just going to pick last couple. I like that. Latest vlog with Sakai and Yellow Monkey. I have to put you on unacceptable Crocs with socks. Behave yourself. I can't remember having socks on though. Crocs, absolutely. Crocs are the in fish farming footwear. To be honest with you, it's all across Japan, being copied now by me in the UK, of course. Got to keep up with them. So I can't remember the socks bit though, mate. But I'll take it. I'll take it. Here we go. I'm cleaning my filters once a week, but I'm thinking not having a bottom drain is building up waste on the bottom. What is the best way to set up a pump for a swimming pool? Not following that 100%, but if you've not got a bottom drain yet, it's quite difficult. This is what you can get. You can get the pumps now, like the Oaza pumps that have the additional satellite, but the best thing you can do is create as much agitation, probably through aeration, as possible. around, just so you've not got dead spots and areas where it can settle. Although what you will find is the waste will naturally be drawn towards the air stone because of the current it takes. So popping a few air stones close to a pump and just making sure there's plenty of circulation should be what you need to do. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, when you have got a pump sat in the bottom, it is trickier. There's pond backs, pond hoovers that you can do to get that out there on a regular basis, and well worth doing. But mainly look at your circulation. That's going to be the best thing to help you out on a regular basis. There's also now retrofit bottom drains that have been around for a good while that you can install. That's certainly going to be of massive benefit for you to get into your pond. You know, like I say, one of the satellites. So that's where you're at with that. And you can always, as well, if you need to run pump fed, you can run pump fed through an 1.5-inch bottom drain fed to an external pump, as long as it's below water level, so it primes properly. I run that setup here a lot, and it works great. So another just thought there that might help you out. Right, one more, folks. Mr. Kev, failing Benny on a shower, can it be saved? Am I going to have another shearer at the end of the season? Yeah, failing Benny, it's a tough one. It depends what has impacted it. If it's just that the colour has broke down and it's going, that is going to go. You're not going to stop that process. If you had here, I mean, I've had a couple of interesting cases here, again, where I say the UV's been hitting them really intensely, and I've seen it's had an impact on the colour. That I can help by shading. You're always going to get in the warmer water. Obviously, it's stretching things, but if it's really failing fast, not like you're going to come back. If it's just been damaged in areas with the right kind of colour quality there and thickness behind it, that can come back. But if it's all falling apart, that's likely going to, go, unfortunately, buddy. But raising koi, that is part of the battles. It's one to obviously pay attention to. You can learn to recognise these signs of this happening in Benny quite early on. So, bear that in mind. It is something you can mitigate. But even still, with these big batches, I've had it with the Sakai Tosai. With all my experience, you even still, you know, fish I've thought, yep, that's looking good. You get them in the water at 26, 27 degrees. They start growing quick, and it just literally pulls the Benny apart. So, and especially Tosai in this side, it's just even more common fish that you see with all the potential there, just all of a sudden coming apart. So, don't beat yourself up about that one, buddy. But depending on exactly what it's doing, it could be recoverable. But like I say, it's all falling apart. You see it. You often get red scales isolating themselves before it falls apart. Whereas if it's an area that's damaged, like on the head or the body, you'll often get a patch that goes a bit lighter. But I've seen some incredible recovery from stuff like that, depending on what the quality of the Benny was in the first place. It tends to be, to be honest with you, with the Dainichi fish, you know, they can tend to. I had one that it really took a, I can't remember what happened to its head, but a big, massive faded patch where I thought there's no chance I'll come back. Within a month or so, I saw it slightly getting darker before it fully recovered, and that's just the depth and intensity of that Benny. There's so much of it there; it had no issues coming back. So there we go. Look, you see. Nice one, Crafty. Got style, buddy. Got style. Right. So that's that bit for now. I hope you've enjoyed that segment with the questions. I'm going to use a few of these pictures just to show you. So for those who weren't here at the beginning, this is for a Tosai event that we are doing where all of the fish include growing on with me at Koi Wholesale until the end of October. The prices listed are all fixed prices, so what you see is what you pay. Obviously, all sold through our dealer network, but these are really high-level fish that I never normally let go until the end of the growing season, in all honesty. And but offering them out so you can enjoy having a fish growing with me, as if it's, you know, the same kind of process growing in Japan, but it's here in the concrete ponds with a lot more stability. There's a video going out on the channel with all the information for this, so you'll get the full details. But yeah, just a few to kind of show you through here. That's one of the Dainichi Kohaku. Straight away you can see there where I'm going with this one. Super pieces. These doing incredibly well. These particular fish at the minute, so there's two batches. They're all actually sat in 1,500-gallon ponds at the moment, or 12 to 1,500-gallon ponds. Soon in the next couple of weeks, one of the 3.5K ponds is going to come available. So we've basically got Dainichi Koraku, Sakai, Dragon Ball Sankey, and Odekan Showa that are in the event. They will move to the 3.5K pond to grow until the end of October. So really going to push them. And then there's a batch of smaller fish. So we had another price point to made available. That's all Sakai, really some really incredible Sakai Tosai that they're going to stay and grow in one of the 12 or 1,500-gallon ponds. But even still, you saw the results probably with the Secret Sankey stuff. We'll still get some impressive size on them. But yeah, that was, say, Dainichi Koraku there. Another lovely Sandan Dainichi Koraku there. I mean, just look at the Benny on that. Marazomi Kiwa, lovely Odame, good sachet. This one is an absolute insane fish. Dainichi Yondan Koraku that is so perfectly distributed. It's got a lovely shine in the skin. You see the balance of that 4-step pattern, the Odame, Marazomi Kiwa. The sachet is absolutely perfect in its depth. Just ticks every box. I cannot believe I've got that kind of pattern level on one of these pieces. So, yeah, going to be a pricey lot, that one. But I'm also sure there'll be some demand for it, because to have Dainichi at that kind of pattern level is just insane. So, buzzing for that one. Really, really top piece. That's one of the smaller Sakai lots. I mean, look at the Benny on that. Absolutely popping. Another Sandan. We've got loads of these really strong structured patterns. Another smaller lot there of the Sakai. Don't think we've had any of the same. That's a stunning piece. One of the smaller Sakai lots as well. Real elegance to it. That I think it's the head shape for me that gets it, to be honest with you. Cracking, really long head. That traditional U-shaped head pattern as well suits it. An absolute treat. And then, yeah, a few of the Odekan Showa pieces, I really have been impressed with these. Like I say, look out for that video dropping this week as well, because there's also another batch of these that are going to suit a wide range of price points that have been sold to dealers this afternoon. And the details of all the people who's bought them will be listed. But yeah, super nice. I mean, look at that. That is a technical masterpiece coming to fruition, that one. Odekan fish, just look at the pattern potential, where the Benny's sat, how the Sumi sits amongst it, the Benny quality of that Motoguro as well. All looks like Subo Sumi. Super, super piece, that one. Really, really happy. Banging Kindai as well. I had to have a couple of them in. But yeah, the Odekan stuff really impressed me with what they've achieved so far, and looking at the quality of them. Mystic Kev, 67 guarantee. I guarantee you, mate, all of these 1 meter, no problem, all female. Yeah, and there's a massive pinch of sarcasm with that one. Yeah, no, what I'm going to be doing is all the fishes are listed on the website. I will be giving you Joe, I'll tell you that those photos are professional. You get in there, Joel, I might need to talk to you about them Showa pictures, mate. It looks like they might have been the ones you did at the end of the day. So, no, good work though, mate. Seriously, they're fantastic. But, yeah, that's it. I'm going to put some notes on each and every fish so you can obviously get a insight into my thoughts on where that fish is going to be heading, what it's doing. As ever, I'll be completely very, very honest on where I see it and where I call it. And obviously, you know, everything gets priced according to where I see it moving in the future. So, yeah, at least you've got all the information then where I see it heading, and we'll see what happens. But one thing you can rest assured with me is I will do my absolute best to raise those fish to the best of my ability, and to make sure anybody purchased them has got a massive smile on the face. Like I say, full details will come, but there is going to be a life guarantee with them as well, and a quality guarantee with most. So, but I say all details will be on them. So yeah, there we go, folks. I like to say we're back now every week, but just to finish where I started with my plea, I would love for you guys, if you've got something out there that you'd like to run by, a list of questions or a scenario, a problem that you're having and you'd like to really work it, I'm happy to give that advice. But please, 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 I'd like to do it on here. You've not got to come on video. We can do it audio only. But like I say, giving that advice and the time to go in depth to it, how I want to and how is probably necessary, I'd like to make sure that as many people as possible can possibly benefit from that advice and the snippets that you'll get from it. So, yeah, that's the reason. And yeah, please get in touch with us. There's plenty of channels in which you can do so. And yeah, Tokyo one, appreciate that, buddy. Nice one to end on there. But thank you for all tuning in, and I'll catch you next week for the auction and then Q&A. Now I've got to find the end card as well. Nightmare when Steve's not here. Thanks, folks.